Good evening. My name is John, and this is the Homestead Diary. Been on the road today. Been trying to educate myself about solar systems and differences between grid tied and off-grid, and all that sort of stuff. Lots of interesting information out there. Watched some videos, listened to some videos, mainly listened to some videos of some very interesting folks doing some very interesting things. I learned that what I was considering putting together is called stringing the system together, or a string arrangement or network or whatever, where you have panels in a series, one after the other after the other. And you can run 5, 10, maybe 15 panels that way. But interestingly, if a shadow happens to be cast on any one of the panels, then the system fails. I don't understand why. They didn't go into the specifics of that, but apparently that's a thing. And so there are two ways around that. One of those is individual microinverters that you place on each panel, and it converts it from AC to DC at the panel. And so you have kind of an independent standalone deal where it transfers AC power directly to the house from the panel, or directly to where it's all going into the house, whatever. And then there's a hybrid version of that, where it individually senses each panel, and I'm not remembering the name of that particular device, but it's not an inverter. It's not as expensive as an inverter, but it's sort of an intermediate step, and that all runs into a central inverter in the house, or the power shed, or whatever. And each panel has individual sensors, and that can get around the thing where panels in a series will tend to shut down when only one is shaded. So I thought that was an interesting thing. Also, learning about lithium batteries versus flooded lead acid batteries. I guess the price of lithium batteries has come down considerably. And whereas with a lead acid battery, you might get 500, maybe 1,000 recharges, depending upon how you maintain the battery and depending upon how your charge controller maintains things. A lithium battery gets 2,000 to 3,000 charges, or cycles as it were, daily cycles. And so rather than a year or two or maybe 3, you end up getting closer to to 10 years of life out of the lithium batteries. Now, the lithium batteries are a bit more expensive, and I saw the price comparison in kilowatt hour, which I don't really understand why that was chosen versus amp hours. It's something I'm still learning about. But there was a comparison in between different types of systems. I guess the Tesla Powerwall system, it's in the neighborhood of $500 per kilowatt hour, and that's the most expensive version to go with. Then they have one where there is a battery maintainer and sensor that's integral to the battery, and that's more like $300 per kilowatt hour. But then the least expensive way is going, you can find used electric vehicle batteries, and that's going to run around $130 to $150 a kilowatt hour if you can find them. Apparently the sourcing of those is somewhat inconsistently available, and you're unlikely to find them in any great quantity. And then of course there's the question of how they were maintained and why are they no longer in the vehicle that they were powering. And so the video creator was saying that what he found is, rather than going on Amazon, where you're still paying $300 or so per kilowatt hour per battery is you go on Alibaba, where you can source these batteries directly from Chinese companies. And he found his for about $130 per kilowatt hour, brand new. Now he said that there was some weirdness about it. For one, Alibaba wouldn't take his credit cards. For some reason, he tried his card and they wouldn't take it. And then because they wouldn't take it and it seemed suspicious, then they ended up flagging his account and they wouldn't take any of his cards. And so he eventually paid through eBay, or I'm sorry, not eBay, PayPal. He paid through PayPal, and so then he placed his order, and then they contacted him and said, oh, the batteries that you ordered won't be available for 6 months or so. They were a particular type of lithium battery, but we have this other one. Now, I guess the one that he originally ordered is one that's been around for a longer period of time. I don't remember the acronym other than it was 3 letters long. It was something like EVA or EVO or something. And these batteries have been tested. The particular type of battery has been tested and has a proven track record over, I don't know, a decade or so. Then there's a newer model type that the acronym was 4 letters long, and they don't have quite the same track record yet. Not that they're bad batteries, but they just don't have the proven track record as of yet. And he was anxious to get his system set up and eventually just said, you know what, I'll go with the other ones, even though that's not what I originally wanted. And so he went with that, and then they presented him with a FedEx tracking number, but every time he accessed the FedEx site, they just kept saying that the order was pending, and he contacted them several times, and it just kept getting the pending notification. And then even after the batteries were delivered, it still says pending. And so, whatever, they finally arrived. They were in good condition. But he was a bit nervous for a while, and he said he would have felt a lot better about the whole situation if they had said up front, hey man, it's going to be like 2.5 to 3 months before you get these things, because then it would be expected and he wouldn't have been sweating it so much. And so anyway, he built one heck of a system out of it, what he put together. You know, I still don't know how much he paid per battery, but he ordered 32 of them, which is a tremendous number. But I guess he's completely off grid and planning to power his entire house, and so quite the system. He also found used panels. I think they were 5 years used, and by some power utility that was being paid by the government to replace their battery or replace their panels every 5 years with subsidies. And he got 240 watt panels, and he paid, I think, in the neighborhood of, what was it, $25 a piece, something like that. Something absurdly low. Like, you don't get panels that cheap. And so he did well in that regard. And still don't know what he spent for the system, but apparently he's setting up this monster of a system. One of the things that he mentioned about lithium batteries is that they have a tendency with temperature changes to swell and then contract, and this can cause problems. And so he said it's important to build some sort of a case around the battery to hold them tightly so that they don't swell and contract, and somehow this creates some sort of a situation where, because they never swell and contract, then it doesn't cause a problem in the first place. I don't know. I'd never heard of such a thing, but definitely something to investigate further. So I have found a contact that sells the 240 watt panels that he spoke of, and I think they were selling them for 120, which still sounds like a really good deal, because that still works out to like 50 cents a watt. And so anyway, around here, that's the going rate. I don't know how he found them for 25 bucks a panel, but that might be worth a drive to Silver something, Texas. I don't know how far that is away from Missouri, but Anyway, just some interesting thoughts of things that I learned today about solar panels, and hoping that this can be helpful to those of you who are looking to put information to learn about solar panels. I apologize, I don't have any solid details for contacts and where to go and all this. Some of the people that put some stuff out there have some really excellent videos about wiring diagrams and all that sort of stuff. So definitely search around and see what you can find, because there's some good stuff out there. Anyway, hope you all have a blessed evening.